So this is the 5th installment of the Random Object series. And in this one, I'll be showing you how to make balancing objects procedurally without any dynamics. And this technique is a good one to have in your toolbox because it can be used in so many different applications. So before we get into the tutorial, I can see that most of you guys are actually not subscribed. So if you want more videos like this one, then please go and subscribe down below. And without further ado, let's just jump into Cinema and I'll show you how to make balancing objects. Alright, so for this one, it's all about timing. So let's start off by making the base of our object. We're gonna create a tube and I'm just gonna turn it 90 degrees like this. And then I'm gonna go and up the rotation segments to 100. Then I'm gonna go into the slice section and we're gonna slice it. I can see that I need to rotate it again 180 degrees. So we have this U shape. Then I'm just gonna pull it up like this. And I'm just gonna go and make it a 50 in the height. And that should be good. So now we need to make a null. And we're gonna call this null our object, and we're gonna put our tube inside of our object. And now we're actually good to go. So we're gonna create everything in our object inside of this null. So let's go and create a formula. And it's important that it's a effector formula and not the deformer formula. So inside of this formula, we're first of all gonna go to the deformer tab. We're gonna set the deformation to object. So it's actually controlling our axis of our object. Then we're gonna go to parameters and I'm just gonna turn off the scale and position. And then I'm gonna move it down below our tube. And if I pull up my rotation down here, then I can set my H value to something like 50. And you can see what happens. It's just gonna rotate around our axis here. And it's a little bit fast right now. So I'm just gonna go in here to the effector tab and I'm gonna pull the project time to 0.4. And that's much better. All right. So now I'm gonna put the position on and you can already see we have something that looks like it's rocking from side to side. So I'm actually gonna pull this up to 100 like this. And now our side movement looks a lot more convincing. So I'm gonna go into my effector tab again. And now I'm gonna pull down the strength to 25, like this. So you can see that we're just moving a little bit from side to side. So I'm just gonna pull down our object so it touches the ground, like this. And now we actually need to put this inside of a connect object. So we're going to hold down the Alt key and we're gonna press the connect object. And it's important to hold down the Alt key so you create the connect object at the exact position of our tube. So if I just pull this formula out, so it's a second child of our connector, then we can see we get the same movement as we did before. But now the magic happens because now we have a setup where I can actually create a box and I can put it inside of my connect object and then I can move it around. I can scale it down like this, scale it down a bit further. I think it was 50 we set it to, 10 by 200. And then I can just pull it down so it matches. And as you can see, it follows the movement perfectly. So that is the big advantage of doing everything inside of a connect object. So this one, I'm just gonna make it a bit oversized and then I'm gonna duplicate this connect object. So I'm gonna hold down Control and I'm gonna put it inside of our original. So now I'm gonna delete my tube, I'm gonna delete my cube and I'm gonna create a sphere. And this sphere, I'm just gonna put inside of our connect object. Then I'm gonna press Alt 0 to zero our object to our connect axis. Then I'm gonna take the radius down to like 35, I think. And then I'm just gonna pull up my connect object like this. Let's just see what happened. So as you can see, it's rolling on top of our seesaw here, but it's really not convincing and it's not rolling in the right way. So let's fix that. I'm first of all going to take down my segments so we can actually see what's happening with our sphere. And you can see it's actually not rolling on top of it right now. It's just rocking from side to side. So we're just going to fix that. I'm just going to make this 300. I think that's good. And I found that a rotation of 300 for 100 centimeters is the perfect settings for this setup, where it rolls perfectly and it's not sliding around. And maybe actually, when I think about it, we should make it 150. Yeah, that's a lot better. Now it's not sliding as much. So as you can see, you can always improve yourself. So let's turn up the segments again so we get a nice looking sphere. And I'm just gonna make a material by going here, and I'm just gonna make a gradient. Okay, so I'm gonna put the gradient on so we can see what is happening with our rotation. And I'm also gonna put the gradient on the two other things just to make it a little bit more nice to look at. All right, let's close this again. And now we need to make the next layer. So the next layer, we're just gonna duplicate our sphere here. We can actually just call it sphere. And let's duplicate it again. And let's put it inside of our sphere as a third child. Let's call this board. And I'm just gonna delete my sphere here. I'm gonna go and delete my rotation. And then I'm actually just gonna copy this cube up here. And I'm just gonna press Alt 0. All right, so I can see that I actually need to pull this out again. Yeah, that's much better. So now that we have our sphere, I'm just gonna duplicate this and I'm gonna call it board. And inside of this, I'm just gonna delete my sphere. I'm gonna go up here and take our cube and I'm gonna duplicate that and put it inside of our board connector. Then I'm gonna go to my formula and I'm just gonna set my H rotation to 0. Okay, then I need to go into my cube and I need to set the C value to 0. Just like that. So now it's stuck right here inside of our sphere. So now we need to take the whole board connector and I'm just gonna pull it up so it just touches the top of our sphere like this. And let's see what happens. All right, so that looks pretty nice. But if we're gonna balance things, this one needs to stay level. So let's fix that. I'm just gonna go inside of my formula and I'm gonna put some rotation on it. And I think I'm gonna put -45, it seems. That should be nice. And you can see we are staying level with this board up here. And it is looking really nice. So what I want to do now is I want to go and just rotate this like 15 degrees, just to give it a little bit of randomness. Then we can take our board here, we can duplicate it, and I'm just gonna pull it inside of our original board connector. Then I'm gonna go and call this cylinder. And I'm just gonna go into my formula and turn off all of my rotation and all of my position. So let's go and delete this cube here. And I'm just gonna go back to keyframe 0. I'm gonna go and create a cylinder. I'm gonna pull it inside the cylinder connector. And I'm gonna press Alt 0 to zero it out. So what I need to do now is go here, turn my cylinder around, not my connector cylinder, just my geometry. Then I'm gonna pull it up and I'm just gonna resize this cylinder so it's not that big. Kind of like this. Okay, cool. So Then I'm gonna go and rotate it 35 degrees, like this. I'm gonna pull it up so it's standing on the corner, really trying to balance the whole thing. And I'm just gonna go and make it a little bit more nice looking. So I'm gonna pull it up to 64, like that. So we have a smooth, round cylinder. So what we need to do now is actually have this top corner or top spike be level so we can put another board on top of it. And I think first of all, I'm just gonna go back to this one and I'm actually gonna make it minus 55. So we get a little bit of some overshooting happening. And I'm also gonna go to my effector and I'm gonna pull this down to 0.3. And maybe not 0.33. Is that better? Well, let's try also going to the sphere one and let's set that to 0.33. And as you can see, yeah, it's looking so much better. So now that our board and our sphere is set to a slow speed, then we can go and make this level up here. And I'm also gonna set that to 0.33. And as you can see, it's not working. So let's just pull out our timeline to 200. And you can see it's just wobbling all over the place. And we can't really have that. So we need to counteract that. So I'm just gonna try around. Maybe let's do minus 60. Like that. Is that better? Yeah, maybe it is. What we could do is actually also move this. So we can move it like 25 maybe. Yeah, I think that should be good. So now I actually think it's a good time to introduce a little bit of variation. So first of all, we need to select all of our formulas and we need to go to the effector section. And then we need to go to frame 60, set a keyframe. And then we need to go to frame 80 and we need to set it to 0. So we're animating all of these off. And it looks pretty static right now. So we are of course gonna go down here to our effector tab and we're gonna go and select a delay. And this delay, we're gonna go inside of our deformer and we're gonna set it to object. And then we're gonna go and set it to spring in the effector tab under mode. Then I'll just pull the strength up to around 98. And I found using a really high number like 99 or 98 or 97 in your delay is gonna result in the best result for this one. So of course you can experiment with some other numbers, but these numbers were just the best for me in this instance. So I'm just gonna pull it down here as the last object in the connector. And I'm actually gonna do that for each of the connectors. So every connector has a formula and a delay. I'm just gonna duplicate it again. And let's just see what happens. All right. See how it looks so much better when it's ringing out. And now maybe 25 is a little bit violent. So let's just go down here to our timeline. Let's select all of these and let's just say 20. Just like that. Yeah, that's a lot better. So this object is really starting to come together and really look nice. So now we need to make the last little bit at the top here where it's actually gonna balance the most. So what I'm gonna do is actually duplicate this cylinder, put it underneath the cylinder. I'm just gonna call it board. And then I'm gonna go and delete my cylinder. And I'm gonna duplicate my cube. All right. So that should be the same place as before. And then I'm gonna pull up my second board here. And it's important that you pull the connector bit and not the geometry. So I'm just gonna pull it up here. And I'm actually just gonna turn it like 15 degrees the other way. So we have it standing like this. And maybe we should go to our board here and let's pull it in a bit. So we have a little bit of variation on our C scale. So it's not that flat. Let's just see what happens now. Oh yeah, so it's definitely not balancing. It's more sticking to it. So let's go and fix that. I think we're just gonna make this 59, just a plus 59 instead of a minus 59. And you can see it's looking really nice. And we're getting a little bit of wobble this way, so we can actually just take care of that by using a little bit of P rotation. And I can see that I need to go the other way, so minus 15, like that. And then it's intersecting a bit here, so I'm just gonna pull it up again, like this. And let's see if it moves enough in our directions here. Well, we could actually just have it be moving a little bit more. So I'm just gonna go to my formula for the last board here. So I'm actually just gonna put it to 15, minus 15. And I think that looks a lot better. Yeah, so it's really trying to balance everything. Just like that. All right. So I think the top one should be a little bit more narrow. And I also think this one should be a little bit more narrow. So let's just pull them in. And it's pretty easy because everything is procedural. So let's just do it like that. And yeah, that looks pretty nice, I think. Okay, so for the last bit of this, I'm actually gonna duplicate this again, my board. I'm gonna pull it under, and then I'm gonna call it sphere. And I'm just gonna delete all of my rotation and all of my position. Now I will delete my cube here, and I'll go and take my sphere, and I'll duplicate that, put it down here. So let's press Alt-0 to zero it. And let's make it 15 in the radius. Let's pull up our sphere connector like this. I'm just gonna pull it out here. And I think I'm actually gonna make this board a little bit more narrow. Yeah, that's a nice top piece. So we need to have this be moving. So I'm just gonna set to 25. And that is not enough. So it's gonna be moving by 35. All right, and then we're gonna add some rotation, of course. Yeah, let's try the other way. That is looking good. Maybe a little bit more rotation. Yeah, just like that. Okay, so let's actually go and set this one back to 0.4. So it's rolling at a different speed of all of our objects. And then let's just pull this up a little bit more. So it's actually rolling on top. And now I'm gonna go and just rotate this a bit. Just like that. So it's actually moving a bit off center. And let me just go and duplicate this and still hold it inside of our board connector here. And then I'm just gonna move it over here. And I'm gonna go into my formula. I'm gonna set it to 0.35. I'm just gonna go and move this sphere connector so it's turning the other way, just like that. So it's a little bit more random. And yeah, look what we made. We made this really ugly looking face. So now we actually have our shape and our nice looking animation. But what if we wanted to move a little bit while it's seesawing back and forth? Well, we can actually go and do that by going to our effectors and creating a time. And we're of course gonna go into the Deformer tab and select Object. And then we're gonna go to the Parameter tab, and then I'm gonna set my B rotation to 2 degrees. And if I just come here and pull it inside of my object as the first one, you can see what is happening. If I maybe turn it up, you can see that it's over time slowly turning the whole object around. So let's set it back to maybe 5 or 4, 3. Yeah, 3 should be good actually. So what I want to do with this is actually go and rename it to time 3. And I'm actually going to duplicate it and set this to time -3. Okay, and this one should be -3 in the rotation. So now I'm going to go and pull these underneath all of my connectors, so they're getting a little bit of movement as we go through the animation. So I'm actually just going to duplicate this down here. So that one. Let's also put one underneath this board right here. And as you can see, everything is slowly moving away from each other. I'm just going to move this first one down here to our first board. And let me just see, if I press these, we can maybe see that it's moving in different directions. If I just do it a lot, you can see all of these are moving in opposite directions. Just going to set this to 4 maybe, or 5, or 7. Yeah, 7 is good. So you can see that we're slowly animating the rotation. And if I go up here and I duplicate it and pull it on everything at the same time, we can go and set this to like -5. So now we have this balancing array of objects, and it's all procedural. So that was it for this exciting tutorial, and I hope you learned something. So this balancing objects technique is so great to have in the toolbox, and it's a really nice way to add some dynamic movement to your scenes. And if you decide to use this technique, then please share it with me on my Instagram. It's also in the description. And also on my Instagram, you can see the next upcoming random objects. So that was it for this time. I'll wish you a very nice rest of your day, and I'll just see you in the next video. Goodbye.